I'll call the meeting to order. The agenda, Oromocto Council in committee, Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 at 5:30 PM at the Oromocto Municipal Building. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor McMurray, secondary, Councillor Daw, questions, all in favor? Contrary, motion carried. We've got two presentations tonight. We'll start with 3A, the RCMP quarterly report with our good sergeant.
Good evening. First of all, it's long overdue for the first quarter. It's been done for a few months. So I guess we'll start with that. I just want to say, first of all, so I've been away from work for a few months. I just recently came back, so I apologize if there was any kind of break in communication. I had somebody replacing me, did a really good job, but I apologize if there was an issue. But I am back here, so it should be okay. Just go through the quarterly report. You know, I say that every time. Like, I don't like to just read the report because it doesn't show as much as we need to. Just want to direct you guys, if you have it, to page 3. So every year we have a meeting where we talk about the priorities that we should have. Usually it's the same thing. Police presence. We want to see police. We want road safety. And then like we want police to do crime reduction initiative, basically reduce crime. So they're usually the ones we do. So this year, in line with those priorities, I made a change to the initiatives we have for Oromocto. And one new initiative that created was the park patrols, because it's something that's been brought up for years. I remember Anniversary Park was always that spot. I know Deputy Mayor, that's exactly when he used to start me a few minutes ago. So it's something that we have started. The numbers pretty low for the Q1 because we actually did our priority towards May, I believe. So that was not the entire quarter, but it's something that definitely we were looking at, that we also did in the summer, and we want to keep going. So just for your own awareness, I'm asking my members to make patrols when possible at Anniversary Park, Hazen Park, Deer Park, and also the Thatch Road boat launch in Lincoln. Been there several times myself, and it's always people hanging out at night, so that's why we're asking our members to make patrols there. At least just be seen. And people are parking there and drugs or do something, they see police pulling, then it's a good deterrent. And if they see police once, then they might think that we're gonna do it again, and they might not come back. So those are the parks that I suggested. If there's other places where you feel like we should be patrolling, or places we should be, by all means, let me know. We can always update our initiative. Like, it's named Park Patrol now because that's what it is. But if in the winter it's different because people will go park at the arena or they go park somewhere else, just let us know. We can definitely update that with the location. But I'm hoping that could be some kind of deterrent. So that's something new in line with your local priorities as well. And we always have check stops and community activities, like we try to be there. And in the summer when there's Pioneer Days and all that, we're around Canada Day, Remembrance Day. The Starship and I saw each other a few times. I didn't get to say hi yesterday, but I was there too in the parade. Right. So just try to be there when needed. Also, I want to reiterate that if you guys need anything, you guys will pretty much all have my email address, phone number. You can come down. I get regular emails from recreation to bylaw to infrastructure, public works, so feel free to reach out. Like, I like that we have a good working relationship. As far as occurrences and everything, even past the Q1, like, we've had a fairly good summer. Like, there's always crime, but we haven't had a big string of break-in-enters, or like we always have that from vehicles. There's always those petty crimes, but we haven't had that much of those. And a lot of it comes with the education of population, where a lot of it is crime of opportunity, like for example, there was a vehicle that was left running this morning with the keys in and somebody stole the vehicle. I mean, we can't convict them, but sometimes like even make it easy, then people will commit the crime. Nobody's forcing them to do so, but they will do it because it's easy. Like we've recovered a vehicle, so it's all good, but it doesn't always happen. So it's always something that we try to push with the population.
And with winter coming now, so people are gonna warm up their car in the mornings and
Yeah.
go in for a coffee. So,
No, exactly, and there's also like different, like sometimes cars have gone missing where keys were not in it as well, like there's criminal groups that are more advanced, like they can steal the vehicles without the keys or anything, so they're kind of coming our way a little bit, so it's a trend and we'll might have to do a part of education where not everybody has a garage needs their vehicle in, but at least leave it in a kind of well-lit area if possible, that kind of thing, but that's something we'll deal with if it comes our way. As for like type of calls, like we always have the usual crime against person, assaults, government threats, nothing really serious property crime. A lot of our numbers are kind of inflated by shoplifting and that kind of stuff. I think I talked about the Shultons in Lincoln, which is a very generates a very high call volume due to being a liquor store and the 24 hours and all that. So those kind of kits are some of our stats, but we do investigate those files as best as we can. So that definitely puts a lot more calls for us. As for the ticketing, I always try to push from our local members to provide traffic stats, pull over cars, at least be seeing traffic stop. I'm not gonna lie, we were in a very bad spot HR wise in the summer. We're getting better now, but with soft and hard vacancy, we were struggling. So as much as I like members to issue tickets or pull over cars, I'd rather we answer calls for service when somebody calls 911. So it's something that we're gonna get back to doing. A lot of our traffic stats are generated by our divisional traffic unit. They're gonna be like, they're coming in maybe once a month for a couple days. They were here over the weekend and they gave like tickets. So if you have areas where you observe that there's people speeding, like for example, last year there were a lot of issues in Oromocto West where vehicles would be coming in at lunchtime, like around 11:30 to go home for their lunch, they'd be speeding. And then you leave around 12:45 to make it 1 o'clock for the end of their lunch. So something that I passed on to our traffic unit. So if we know the areas, if we know the issues, by all means, we can do something. So don't feel like you're being redundant by sending us a message saying, hey, we've had issues with Fenimore. Well, we know I've been around here for 16 years, so I know there's always been issues on Fenimore. Now even more so where the whole thing is open to traffic to a member sheet. So, but just let us know. As far as check stops, stuff like that, it's gonna be Christmas time coming, so lots of office parties. So it's definitely something we'll be pushing for check stops. We've been working with the Milford Police to do some check stop at the base entrance as well. Because there's a lot of people coming back late at night on base, those are on courses. So we'll definitely work on that, especially with December coming. I mean, that's basic collision. I mean, that always happen. It's always weather dependent. With the first snow, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot more of those. We're lucky we didn't get the snow that Quebec had yesterday and the day before, but you know, if it's next week, then there's gonna be a bunch of accidents. So the good thing is that, knock on wood, we didn't get that many fatal collisions on the highway like we did last year. Then also in page number 8, That's a new thing we had in the last report where you start tracking down the time where people will be waiting online for OCC. Get the whole of our telecoms to record stuff. They, like the times have definitely improved. If you look at those page 8, like the response time has kind of cut down in half because it's a complaint that we've had where people want to report something and then they wait on the phone for same period of time, then it doesn't make you want to report something. So that's why we have online farm reporting as well. And if it's urgent, obviously we encourage people to call 911. But the sooner the call is taken, the sooner it is dispatched to us and we can do something. So our operational communication center is definitely working hard to improve service delivery on that end. Obviously, if there's any issues, feel free to let me know. Somebody said they've had issues, by all means, we can address it. As far as the other pages, like the type of calls, like it's not some, like some stats are not really relevant. Yeah, but now just act that there's 1 and 2 and 1, so it shows a decrease of 100%. Like it's great, 100% less, but it's down 1. So I mean, those are bigger numbers like crime against person. So it's going down. So trends seem to be going down on a lot of it. Like property crime was down 37%. Like the numbers are fairly high if you compare it to the previous years. So it's good to show that we're going down with that. Traffic offenses have been going up, could be for various reasons. Either people are driving worse than they were, or people are just reporting it more. And that's something that we've done, the past few years where we've encouraged the public that we got that reservation. If you see something, call it in. You might be helping somebody else. If you see this vehicle doing something wrong or speeding, that red car, you happen to have the plate, well, it might be somebody, it might be causing somebody else's issues, so just feel free to report it. So it might be better for that. I think the last page just so I know we're already at the end, we're in Q3, but I'll specifically on Q2 whenever I get it. But again, just feel free to let me know if there's any issues. We always like to be present. I can't always address any issues, or at least move resources to make sure that we can address those. Now, if you have any question or any issues from the residents, by all means, feel free to pass them on to me. If you don't really want to ask or talk about it in the meeting, you have my contact information, or come and see me in the office tomorrow. No issues with that.
Any questions or comments, council?
So don't be shy. It's always like to leave the door open.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say we, in leading up to the budget, the last few years, we have put out a survey to the community to basically say, what are your priorities? What are the things you're looking for? And one of the consistencies that has come up, which I know is very difficult because, you have finite resources and one call take all day. I understand that. But people say things about visibility of police. So I think any of these initiatives that you do within communities of patrolling parks and so on, I know a lot of the time you do those things in the cover of darkness and people don't see that you're doing this.
Yes.
But I think anything that we can do to be visible in the community, parades and controlling the parks during the daytime, I think those things really matter, because it does put the public face of law enforcement on the community, which then increases the level of how people feel safe.
Yes.
In the community.
No,
And I understand that's what you're saying.
Yes, and sometimes we tend to be reactive in the sense that we wait for calls for service and then we go to those calls because we are busy, but I definitely understand your concern. And we've had people from local people approaching us for that exact same thing, saying, you know what, I live in Oromocto West and the kids are playing on the road, and it'd be nice for police to be out and about and be seen, and like for kids to see us, it's great, but sometimes our highest call call volume is usually between 4 and 8 in the evening, which would be when the kids are back from school and playing outside, so. So we try to be out, like I remember we're giving candies away on Halloween night, like we're trying to be there and we're trying to be. In schools and we're trying to be at different places where people can see us and try to be like. Show a different face of policing, that we're just like. Average person, like I'm a father and I have kids, I'm not just a police officer, but it's always something that we try to do. As far as visibility, sometimes like you said really well. We drive around a lot to a call or drive around at night where the average person is sleeping. So we have people saying, hey, we never see you there, we never see you there. I can tell you that we've been on your street, we've been there, you were sleeping or you didn't see us. Or if you're gone Monday to Friday because you have a big job, then you might not see us when we go there. So can we always do better with being visible? Of course. But we are there, whenever we can, and we have to, we focus on the calls for service as well, but we do also proactive patrolling and stuff like that, so it's always gonna be hard for us, but again, like, if there's anything, community event or anything, feel free to always pass it on, like I always make sure to get members involved, or like if there's something happening, or if there's a place in the area where you feel like they never see police, I mean, it's a good sign. If there's, you don't go there, usually it's not a crime. There's a bunch of streets in Oromocto that I've never been in my years here because I never had calls for service. So, which is good. If you see us all the time, 5 times a week, then that's the visibility you'll see. So, but again, to go back to a message that I've given for the last couple of years, we don't always know everything that's happening. So if people want to see police because there's an issue, somebody's causing trouble, there's loud noise, there's loud music, or parking issue, or any other issue, get them to let us know. Because we don't go there sometimes because we don't think there's an issue, or we're not aware there's an issue. Like last year, we were in Garden Grove area quite a bit because there was an issue, and knock on wood, I'm sure your since winds are, they're not complaining about calls for service anymore because there's not, which is great. So always make us aware of any issues and sources as we see fit to improve.
Councilor Wayne?
Your worship, you mentioned vehicle thefts, and forgive me if you've already answered this, but was the vehicle that was stolen on the Kansas recovered?
Yes.
It was recovered.
Yeah, it was recovered, it was processed, the file's ongoing, but it was processed by our forensic team this afternoon for fingerprints and stuff like that, which is a policy, so, yeah, it was recovered. I don't have the circumstances of how and when it was recovered, but it is locked in the wash here. So we had it, so sometimes we tend to burn the vehicles, go for joyrides, scrap them, but I guess this one was recovered. So obviously, sometimes we were luckier but it was recovered, so I'm sure the owner will be notified if we haven't been notified yet, so.
Yeah. Any other, Councilor Cook?
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I want to thank you because you personally actually came out to one of my other life to work at a school in the area, and you came out on an event day that we had last spring, and it wasn't first quarter, but the kids were really excited to see you, and you were in full uniform, full plate, yeah, you were full plate and everything, and you had bucket stuff over your heads, and the kids just thought that was amazing, right? To see that other side, and we're in a military town, so they're used to seeing uniforms, but there's different, right? There's different to see that was great exposure, and thank you for coming to this. It was important for a lot of those kids to see that other side of it, that you could be personal rather than just the uniform and the parents.
Yeah, because often it's not our fault, the parents' fault, but people know the police as sometimes the bad guys because we go and we tend to call for service, like it's pretty rare that both sides are happy with us. So that's not the rewarding part, but no, so that's what I like to do, and I like to do those myself because I'm a father, I have kids, and I like to put it there, like daycares and that kind of stuff. I mean, they just like to see another person. Like we explain that we're helpers, right? We're here to help. And it's a message that works better for younger kids, but just that we're there to help, that they shouldn't be scared of calling us. So, no, I appreciate the invitation, and if something happens again next year or something else, let us know.
We'll get it done tanker.
Sure, yeah, that part I didn't do, but I did everything else, but no,
Thank you.
no problem. Appreciate the invitation.
Anyone else? I find this year, especially in my neighborhood in Anniversary Park, it's been the quietest it's been in a long, long time.
The trends to see
There's
this.
hardly any garbage, there's hardly any kids fighting and broken glass. Well, there was a little incident a while ago with some broken glass, but
Yeah.
it's been the quietest it's been for a
Yeah,
while.
and that's why I felt the need to add park patrol, because it's something that was, usually I didn't really get to choose the initiative that much, but this year had more of an input, and I knew from previous conversation that was definitely something that was needed, and I mean, if it paid dividends, then it's good. I mean, the kids will always find a different place to do whatever they need to do,
And
but if it can be outside the park, then it's a good thing.
I know. Okay.
Again, if you need anything, I'm not hiding, so feel free to reach out. And I guess I'll be back soon for Q2.
Yeah.
So we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys. All right, we'll move down to 3B, the public budget 2026 presentation, the CEO, John Jackson.
Thank you, your worship. All right, so here we are. We'll get the budget presentation, I guess, started. You'll bear with me for all the folks who want to watch this at a later time. So we'll make sure present it as clear and as fair as we can. So obviously, for tonight, the objective that we have is we're here for the presentation to council in open session. And of course, we had prior sessions, either with council briefings, public consultation before. Leading us up to this point, with the hope that next week we can get a budget approval and then get it submitted on next Friday, the 21st, which would eventually get the budget submitted to the province on time. So the outline tonight, really again, about tax, water, sewer rates. Nothing real new here that we haven't already given prior to, but again, it's that one last chance for the public and council themselves to hear what the outline plan is. A few comments on those rates and water and sewer rates, and then again, talking about some of the changes, pressures, and the highlights of what went into this budget, and any type of discussions from the survey and future considerations. So very quickly, again, we run this slide, and I know most of the folks in this room are familiar with how this works, but again, for those who might watch later, what is that mill rate? It's just a way to calculate your overall property tax. Half of it's based on assessed value, which isn't our responsibility, something the province handles, but the other piece is the rate for which it's determined. So that's a 0.1%, and how that's calculated. And the main thing here for folks is between the assessed value and the taxes, the biggest driver that usually affects people's quote tax bills is that number, the number they ultimately need to pay is the assessed value and the rising of assessed values. But good news this year for all those property tax payers is the assessed values have been frozen. So that's not gonna cause a whole lot of pain to people this year in terms of that. Of what typically drives your overall bill higher on a year-over-year basis. As far as we go, property taxes for municipalities, and ours is no different, is, you know, generally accounts for about 85% of the revenues that we use to deliver services and things that citizens want, so. And again, a high level 1 cent increase for us right now is equal to about $158,000 in new revenue. On the Oromocto end, and then so wards 1 to 3, and then in wards 4, it equates to about 32,000. So we brought this slide up in the past, and so we want to bring it up again because we really want to let people know where does their money go, right? So this is an allocation for each service that's provided in town where that money goes. So, and we've done it for all wards, so wards 1 to 3 is on, you know, what I'll say, looking at the slide on the right hand. Ward 4 is on the left hand, and so the values are there, you know, and starting with what the average annual property tax is for each one of those wards, and working through what that monthly rate and where all those numbers go. So that's there for people to consider and look at, so they know where every penny of it goes and where what service it's going to provide and how it's allocated. Of course, the biggest difference between Ward 4 and 3 is how much of their tax base gets allocated to roads through DTI, and it's a fairly significant amount, right? It's 120 out of the, you know, out of the $284 on average. So, you know, that is a significant amount that we want to continue to try to work through with DTI to know exactly where that money is going and how it's being spent in the ward, because quite frankly, I can't tell. I can tell you where the money goes in wards 1 to 3 on roads, but I have not been able to get the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure to be able to break down where they spend their money in Ward 4 when it comes to that. So my hope is as we move along, we keep trying to be progressive and try to tackle folks for you know, for more information in that. That's what we'll continue to try to do. My hopes is that we can keep pushing harder and harder every year, because I'd like to know, people are gonna task me wondering where that money goes. I'd like to be able to tell. I feel like that's a warranted question that should be able to be answered, but at this point, I simply can't answer it with any assurance. Something is definitely wrong. So tax rates, and talked a bit about tax rates and where we need to go according to our 5-year financial plan to meet some of the larger goals that we've tried to establish, some of the things for level of service and new capital things that we want to do. So really what we're considering here obviously is a mill rate increase of 2 cents in wards 1 to 3 and 4 cents in wards 4, and with keeping the non-residential tax ratio held at 1.7 for all non-residential properties, which that hasn't changed. So the history again, just quickly, You know, obviously since 2009 until about 2021, so of course about 12 years, the tax rate in wards 1 to 3 actually went down. So now we're finding we're trying to catch up to, you know, quite frankly, probably times where we should have raised tax rates in those 12 years to keep ahead of the curve, but we did raise them in 2022, but we only did that simply to roll garbage bills into the tax rate. So it really was nothing new. It was simply, instead of people getting a garbage bill, they just added the 2 cents to the filter. So it really wasn't until 2023 that we started to put a bit of a push to try to catch up on some things that maybe we should have done in earlier years, but that's the history. And of course, you can see a lot of up arrows. Hope to, you know, be able to level that out soon according to our 5-year plan, but we're tasked with a lot of things in 2023, including local governance reform. So in Ward 4, it does go up and down a bit. Previous to 23, that's not atypical because that plays into that local service district model. If they needed the money, they raised it. If they didn't need the money, they lowered it. That was the model used until 2023, in which case, yes, it has been going up similarly to wards 1 and 3 since that point. Comparable mill rates here, really what we're trying to do is just give a reference for folks so that they're aware, you know, when sometimes you hear like, well, Oromocto is the most expensive place to live in the whole province. It really isn't. We're not that far off in terms of looking at comparable, you know, municipalities and even some cities. So, you know, we're way below St. John, for example, but they're quite a large city. So we're really doing the best we can and understanding that, of course, nobody wants to pay more. I get that. I'm a homeowner too. I don't want to pay any more than I have to. But we have to be able to manage the level of service and the cost that we're trying to provide. So, that's just to provide a bit of context for anyone who's thinking that we're the #1 highest tax rate in the province. We're definitely not. What's the impact this year in terms of the average homeowner? If we consider that baseline, the average assessment is 350,000, which is right around there for most areas. There's no assessment increase from the province because they froze assessments. Really, what we're looking at is if you're in wards 1 to 3 and you're around that average, you're talking $70. That's the increase that you're going to see on a 2-cent increase. And in Lincoln, it would be 100. And that's those 2 to 4-cent increase. And it should only be that because the assessment portion has been frozen. So while it is up, I agree it's up. It's not up significantly like it could be in future years once assessments are not frozen. In which case, that's another issue to tackle when those times come, because they will come. I mean, granted, we got it for 1 year, but freezes are usually just delays of the inevitability, and we want to make sure that maybe we can build some comfort in if we do this now. Hopefully, when that freeze comes back off, we cannot double the pain of also continue to raise tax rates when assessments come back on. Water and sewer rates. So on water and sewer, you know, again, we're proposing a fixed rate increase to $137.50, but we're also lowering consumption rates by about 30 cents a cubic meter. So in net, difference for most folks. The average home would be about $13.75 a quarter. This is again, we're trying to get ourselves to a point easier to predict on the fixed cost side versus the consumption side, and that helps, but also reminding the fact that we know this could become a burden for people as far as costs, so we're trying to offset some rate reductions with the fixed rate increases. On the consumption rate from commercial institutional account holders, those will hold the same, so it won't make given that consumption reduction. Think that makes sense and it helps everyone else and it helps us balance our water and sewer. The other point that we like to make for the public is water sewer costs are not supposed to be covered by regulation through property tax. So we have to find the funding directly through water and sewer bills. So a lot of people ask us, well, why don't we cover some of water and sewer with property tax? And the answer is just not allowed to. We're supposed to cover it through sending people an appropriate bill for that service, and we're trying our best to try to catch up to that. Because again, water and sewer rates have been held low for probably too long, and we're trying to catch up, and so we're getting near the end of being caught up, but we still have a little bit of growth to go. So in that, again, the history behind the fixed service fee is in 2022, not that long ago. Is that probably that time we didn't have one? That really put us behind the 8 ball, because service fees help us pay for the pipes that need to be replaced. Consumption pays for the water you use, but it doesn't pay to replace the pipes. So that's relatively new. Again, so you go over, we're headed into year 3 of that implementation on the fixed rate side, which we put it at $137.50. And in order to deal with renewal and capacity, we do have to move to that, unfortunately, which is a fixed rate increase of $25 a quarter on just the fixed rate alone. But again, we'll offset that with a reduction for homeowners in consumption, which should average out to, perhaps an increase of only $13.75. What does that do for us? It generates an increase in water and sewer revenues of $256,000. So that's what that increase generates, new money for water and sewer in the town of Oromocto. So, currently it's at $3.30. We're recommending an increase, again, as we mentioned, residential, but maintain commercial institutional customers at $3.30. We'll transition applying greater fixed cost ratio while respecting overall cost, that balance between reducing the consumption with the increase in fixed. And, again, in long term, we'll continue to that lower usage rate, higher fixed rate in accordance with our 5-year plan. It's easier for us to budget, to forecast, because we know exactly how many meters we have out there. We do not have the crystal ball to know how much water every individual's going to use. And that's key, because if we guess wrong, we run the risk of then running a deficit. And if you run a deficit, then you got to bring it in the next year, and then you're carrying that. So when you do that too many times, the snowball just gets bigger and bigger. It makes it hard, because deficit money is money that's already spent. So when I create new revenue and I have to pay a deficit, I'm basically burning that money, and I can't use it for new things. So the importance of the fixed rate is really key, because we absolutely know how many meters we have out there. We absolutely know what the rate is. It's a basic math equation, which is easy to budget for and maintain. So, are we still charging it? Not enough, not yet, but we're close, we're getting close. We still have about a $500,000 gap that we're assuming by water cost transfers, which is a way to be able to pull a little bit of money from, you know, the general capital side into water, but it's not recommended to do that too much, because then you're just hiding the cost of your water service, and that's not a good idea. But we'll keep working at, you know, getting to a sweet spot. I talked about the 256,000 of new revenue. But I will mention that 185,000 of that new revenue is going to go to pay for the water increase. The base for the water, right? So effectively, that leaves me with $71,000 for the whole town for next year to do something new. It's not a lot of money, folks, and that's the part that we're really trying to get ahead of. And why we have to continue to raise those rates, and we don't. Again, that snowball just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until one day it runs us over. So I can certainly appreciate that the average homeowner sees a rise in costs. 100%, they're not wrong, but my hope is that they can see the rationale here and where we need to go in order to right that ship. And, you know, we have some new treatment solutions that we have to provide for growth, and we're trying to provide some recapitalization in old pipes that need replaced, and all those things cost money. And I'm trying to do it on $71,000. So I think we're doing pretty good. I'll just say that. I think we're doing pretty good. Comparison of costs, again, just to give people, are we in the right range? I believe we are in the right range. Some people will be like, I can't believe how expensive water is in Oromocto. Well, it's really not that bad if you look at our competitors that are close to us. We're a nudge above Fredericton, but we're below New Maryland, and that's right where we should be, folks. We should never be less than Fredericton, because Fredericton has about 8 times more ratepayers than I do. They can spread it around. Should we always be lower than New Maryland? 100%, absolutely. Because again, the same theory provide, Maryland has about 4 times less ratepayers, and so we are in the right range. We're all aware of that. We will continue to keep us in the right range, so that people know we're not just going to continue to rise until we become, let's say, more than New Maryland, because that's probably not the right range. But I also don't want people to keep telling me I should be less than Fredericton, because I can't make that work. I just, you know, if I had 70,000 people living in Oromocto, I would say, sure, I can fit to that, but we don't have that population base to help us in. We are in good shape. We're in a good shape. So, what does this budget allow us to do? The things it does allow us to do is continue to proceed with our project in our Oromocto Community Wellness and Recreation Center project. We'll keep plugging away at our design portion of that project, and through that phase, it'll help catch up on some capital reinvestment on equipment and fleet. It'll help with some of the growing costs in water and sewer, as we've just explained. It'll help with some planning of the new wastewater water treatment plant, and the planning to take over, wastewater treatment plant, so we can control those cost increases. It's much better if I can provide a 15% increase to the base than it is the base providing a 15% increase to me. I like that model much better, because then, I've got a little more cash flow to work with on an annual basis. It'll help begin to reinvest in some aging water and sewer infrastructure, and to try to meet some of our major investment targets outlined in our 5-year plan that the council reviewed and approved back in August. So some of the things it doesn't allow us to do is replace all of our aging fleet and vehicles and equipment. Naturally, there's still some that still needs to be done. We've got some plans to kind of span that out as we go. It won't allow us to catch up on all our capital investments in terms of paving, streetlights, storm, water, that sort of thing. Truth be told, right now, we're projecting about a $300 million deficit in that area, right? It's a lot of money. I don't want to scare people by that number, but it's just, it is the reality. Can we tackle that in small increments and be okay? Absolutely. But it is a big number, and it won't get any smaller as we continue to move into the future. And quite frankly, this budget won't allow us to spend beyond our needs. We didn't put anything on budget. We didn't have any, wants, if you will. We tried to keep it as to the bone as we could in terms of delivering the basic service that everyone comes to think of when it comes to that, and to continue to look at our investment in new infrastructure as we talked about in some of our plans. So the highlights in general, where we're at, these are the big buckets. This is the big bucket slide in terms of revenue and expenditures. Of course, we've got a balance, so we're targeting $29.1 million of revenue overall, through tax and PIL, which again, our assessments were frozen, so could have been a lot more, but it isn't. That's what it is. The expenditure side, obviously, those are your big buckets. You got a fair amount that goes into our public safety, our police, of course, our big sections of those pie. But everybody wants that, and so they should have it, but they're definitely expensive to operate, no doubt. But the numbers are there for folks who want to, look through that slide from a really big number point of view and find out exactly where it's all going. In terms of the known facts, again, what we're working with right now is we're using census data from 2021 that the province uses. I mean, hoping that there will be new census data here in the next year, because I feel like we have seen growth, but for now, they're using the population data of 11,910. That's what's used to calculate service charges through the region, and then the province uses it as well. The Lincoln tax base value for 2025 is 316 million, and the tax base value for Oromocto is 1.76 billion. Assessed values, again, you'll notice in 25 to 26 there isn't a lot. There's a little bit of variation, and just to make sure people are clear, we said there was a freeze. That is correct. But what isn't frozen is the new growth. So any new growth that we received, which was about 1.5% for 2026, is what you see in that number that goes from, to billion. And change to just a little, about another. One-ish million or so, which sounds like a big number, but when you're in the billions, it's 1.5%. And it's basically, so. Again, that's the new, then, so the little box at the bottom provides that information for folks who are questioning why we said frozen, but the number's bigger. So. The budget considerations that we looked at for 2026, obviously water and the revised billing approach. So we still need to catch up, as I've said before. We're still funding some operating deficits as a result of insufficient rate increases from prior years, which again, as I mentioned before, has an effect because it's money you've already spent that you're still trying to accommodate for new money. We definitely are on the path for a new sewage treatment solution in the west side to accommodate the capacity in the growth that we're seeing in that end of town. And to transition ownership responsibilities from base to the town when it comes to the operation of the water treatment and wastewater treatment. Again, we're getting ready for that new community wellness recreation center. Projected expense, yes, 9 million when it's done. That's not next year, you know, it's projecting out, so we want to build that inflationary cost in instead of shocking people at the end. And, you know, so we have been raising rates, you know, incrementally to capture that and to accommodate for that. Again, the loss of assessment increase is big this year. I mean, it has an impact on this year's budget by $930,000, so almost $1 million. Which, if we had that money back, if it was in our first use, certainly we could do a lot more or give people a bit of a break on tax rate increases or both, right? But it's not money I have. Perhaps next year we'll get it back. And in which case we'll go through this again with a different message. So. And we're still planning for the future, so we've got asset management starting to kick in. You know, we're building strategies, we're doing studies, we're trying to make sure we get ourselves right and capture the right major capital projects that need to be done. They are all expensive, but if you don't prioritize and figure out how much they're generally going to cost, then never have an adequate plan. So those are all things that this budget takes into consideration. Oops. Backwards. So the big pressures on 2026, obviously the number one thing is the assessment fees in the first block. Again, a lot of money there that isn't being sent our way. And so therefore we're trying to do more with less, if you will. So that's a factor, probably the biggest one this year. Sure, you know, we've got some outline design costs for $2 million, which you know, certainly is I'll say a pressure in terms of where some of the money for 2026 is going. Our regional service fees are around $200,000 a year, and then we're going to see an increase in tipping and tonnage. So that garbage that people are taking away, it's costing us more to tip at the landfill, which will have an effect. Our community funding equalization is another piece. I mean, prior to 2022, it was $510,000 a year. In 2026, you know, now 4 years later, it's at $248,000. So effectively, it's less than half what it used to be. That's certainly a pressure. That's money that we used to get that we no longer have in our coffers. Water sewer costs, just the rates increase from the base of the 15%, that's where the bulk of the water rate increases of 256,000 are going. That 185,000 pays that 15% rate increase. Obviously, a new sewage treatment solution is hovering around 25 million once we finalize the designs, but it's still in that range. So, you know, again, it's money that we're not gonna completely, but even at a third, we're still looking at $7.5 million that we have to come up with, and it has to come from somewhere. Again, delayed investment on capital renewals at 300+ million. It's a big number. We'll tackle it. We've got to tackle it, and we will. We'll do it in a way that target the most needed areas and continue to work on that. And that's a lifetime project at that rate, that number. But it's something that people need to be aware of. Because again, in Oromocto, a lot of the town was built all in about a 3-year span, and a lot of it's wearing out all at the same time. And it was like, again, inflationary costs are always something year over year that we have pressures on. So while we didn't see the advantage of getting assessment rate increases, you know, what we didn't see was our power rates aren't frozen. Our fuel rates aren't frozen, our material rates for what we buy aren't frozen. So all these things are going up at a much greater rate than what we're currently taking in. So there is pressure there. Again, paving costs for next year, we want to reduce some roads as we do every year. Those rates alone will be 5 to 8% more. It's that those increases have to be borne somewhere. And again, just electricity costs, as most people know through the news, is projected to go up another almost 5%, so 4.75%. And we spend about $1 million in electricity, so there's some basic math for folks, and that's not a nothing increase to us. So again, it's under where we're gonna make sure we do the most with the money we receive. So here's some of the highlighted for capital budget 2026, and in paving and road construction in 2026, we're looking at about a $1.75 million investment in paving and road construction. We'll look at some of the specifics on the next slide. Water and sewer obviously is down again, but it's one of those things. It's what we can do with the money, the new money we have left. We'll make the most of that. So it's only about $688,000 for 2026. The building maintenance is definitely down, but that's fine. We need it to be down. We don't have years of wants here, right? Because of assessments being frozen. So all those wants that people wanted in terms of, you know, renovations or things they've been put off. Parks and rec facilities is slightly up, but not by a lot. But in that we do know and we understand that people want their parks and recreation facilities to be maintained and upkept. And that's literally all that is in terms of that increase. Our fleet is up a little bit, but again, most of that is just things that we either know we need to replace and can't put off, and so it's not significant and an increase, but again, an increase nonetheless at about 1.56 million. And the community recreation wellness center is definitely a little bit of an increase, and now we're into the design phase, but we know we do that. But overall, where I want to point people to is the total amount of capital that we're spending is down by, well, a little about 1.8 million, and really what that is because we know we don't have as much. Money coming in on the revenue side for, so, that's reflected in what we can do on the caps. So all in all, we are working with the money that, we projected to get, which is gonna be a little less, but, again, nothing, out untoward or crazy in those numbers, or at least that would be. So. Based on our priorities through asset management, you know, the things we did talk about with fleet and equipment. We have some mowers that need to be replaced, and they're the big mowers, they're date back to late nineties and really, struggle to keep them together, and so. You'd be amazed at how much new mowers cost in 2025, but, you know, it's one of those things that you just have to do. A plow truck, a trackless, these are things that are again to maintain roads, to maintain active transportation ways, sidewalks, those are why we need those. The 1-ton dump is a vehicle that we've had for, I'm gonna say close to 20 years, and it's just done. And so trying to replace that. The TMR, critical technical rescue equipment, some of that all relates to fire, radio equipment is a change in I guess, equipment that's being used provincially, one of those things that technology updates. Critical technical rescue equipment is just general renewal of that equipment for which those folks need in order to respond to different types of incidents. Training site, small vehicles, there's some small vehicles, I will say this one, ×6, it's really, there, we have 5 that are coming off a lease that we're buying out, so it's not a full value, so they're already vehicles in our fleet that we will keep. So it's really one brand small vehicle that are buying out leases, so we could get those renewed sooner and buying out. So, and then of course fire has one new fleet vehicle in there. It's paving and road construction, Sear Street, so that's gonna be a new build, if you will, that will start next year. We're lucky enough to get about $900,000 in infrastructure money to help pay for that. That's part of our paving and road construction program. Wasis Road is again another one that could work with DTI in the province, and we give them a list of things and they tell us, okay, next year you're going to get our surface renewal on Route 102, leading out of town, if you will, from OFN to the town boundary. And again, that's so that work is being supported partially through DI. And then the 2 local streets that we're doing is Doyle Drive, which is a full rebuild of Doyle Drive, curbs, road base, asphalt, 2 layers this time, and sidewalk. So, and then Brisley Street will also be resurfaced, because if you've been there, the problem we have with Brisley is we've had a lot of builds and they've had to cut the road several times, and they've become de facto speed bumps. And so we will make sure that we speed all that out, because it's time to do that. All the new infill is done, will be done by then. Get that part fixed and make it water and sewer. We do have Lewis Street Forest Main, which we're gonna have a pump for the sewage treatment solution on the west side, the design. And the Wood Street design for phase one is another one, which is a lift station down by our old public works property. We'll have Smith subdivision treatment, so it's a UV treatment to make sure that we stay on board with the treatment plan that services Smith subdivision and keep that in the good graces of our environment and what they're looking for there. And so that's on the water sewer side. On the building side, again, there isn't a lot. There's a little bit of beautification around the Hazen Center. And a small bit towards office renovations and engineering and public works. The community wellness recreation center design, of course, we've spoken to that. That's there to get that design done and complete so that we can be ready for funding and hopefully at some point construction phase. And on the rec and tourism side, there are some things that just need to be in place and some things that will do that is new to some of the areas, but dugout protective fencing at Summerhill, level outfield at Bosses, new fencing, rail protection at some of the ball fields, it's wearing out. And tables, bridge, recycling bin, trolley, those are all just things that just need to be replaced in various different areas within town. We can put a water line dispenser in for the dog park, putting some new mesh on the fence at Summerhill, or dividing a fence, putting a dividing fence in Summerhill too, and then some more investments in concrete benches on our active transportation trails. So what fell below the line, just so people are aware, we do have a turf replacement that is coming up. It didn't hit us this year. We're gonna try to keep it as in best shape as we can, because that is a significant investment. That was on our radar. Some of the other road, water, sewer infrastructure, so there's two phases to Wood Street that we just can't do yet. It'd be good if we could do it all at once, but there's just not enough money to do that. Duplain, Lashir, Blackwatch, Fitmore, Harris, Woodgate, Schooler. The second phase is Schooler, which is the first phase, which you finished up this year, is one that we would have preferred to have kept doing next year, but we can't. We don't have enough funds to be able to continue that one, so it had to fall below the line. And the other ones are areas that have been identified to us for repaving, but again, we only have so much paving to do. It's been identified. Assessments, there's something that we'll keep an eye on, but on it, we have to wait for a future year. Town hall doors is another one, tackway, aerator, fencing and storage at EW. Valve exerciser, which is a bit of it's a tool that the water and sewer crew can use. So if there's a water valve in somebody's lawn that gets stuck, again, it's a nice to have that we just said, hey, this isn't the year to be able to do that. Again, utility trailers and side by sides and boats, again, all things that may need to be done at some point, just not this year. And so same with the hose water related. And so what did we hear from the survey? Just to recap again, from some of the things we heard way back at the beginning. The big priorities for town, public health, we understand that that's on the minds of many. We have created a public health action committee. I do feel like we've got to do a better job at promoting successes. We have been able to recruit 3 new doctors in 2025, which some people may not know, but I give a lot of kudos to that group and that committee for being able to put in the work and find the people who want to come practice in Oromocto. And we'll continue to do that as we can. I mean, obviously, public health in general doesn't fall in our bailiwick, so to speak, but we can always promote our town and try to attract them to come and work here, and I think they're doing a pretty good job at that. Affordable housing, absolutely, we understand, that's an issue amongst, the whole country. We'll keep working with our folks and develop more strategies, whether it's economic development, which we do have a strategy, which we'll try to start exercising in 2026, do in that vein. Infrastructure renewal, yeah, we hear everybody, we're planning on putting a lot of money in new facilities to replace old ones, right? So it's coming. Just need to do it, deliberately and make sure that we don't bite off where we can chew. And investments in active living, yeah, our new park master plan will definitely keep us developing a way forward for parks, trails, rivers, and plan on doing more investment in that area because it's important to people to do that. And as we talked earlier tonight about policing, so we'll continue to work with our policing partners on that perceived value dollar. The top comments, obviously, wellness, encouraging people of all ages, get outdoors. People do want more police and related bylaw enforcement or visibility. People want to provide services. I'm not sure we can afford to, but they definitely tell us they like to. Public transit options are another one that's starting to pop up, and those are things that we'll continue to have discussions with within the region to see if there's any viable way to be able to do that. More activities for youth and seniors. Well, we'll see what we can do. Obviously, not exactly sure what those activities are yet, but obviously we'll task our departments to see what if can be done there. And of course, lower the current tax rate. That would be lovely. I do agree. No question, we hear that and we understand that. It's just, given what I've said earlier and what I've said tonight, it's just really hard to come up with that reality right now. But to be fair and transparent, if people mention that more often than not, absolutely. I can't sit here and tell you they're not, so. It's certainly something on the minds of many. So all that being said, where does that leave us for tonight? Really, council and to the public in general, we're looking for an approval of the budget for 2026 next week. And in that, we are looking for a recommended increase in the bill rate to 1.4501 for wards 1, 2, and 3, and 1.0157 for wards 4. And to hold the 1.7 multiplier on non-residential properties. We're looking to increase the fixed rate on the water billing to $137.50 a quarter. And we're looking to reduce water consumption rate to $3 per cubic meter for residential account customers and maintain a rate of $3.30 for commercial and institutional account customers. And that is it from my perspective on the presentation.
Questions, comments? Council? Done? Okay. Yeah. All in favor?
In favor of what? Well, the budget to bring it forward for next Thursday.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to agree.
Yeah.
Agree it forward.
We didn't
Very
take
cool.
one, that's two of us.
Well, I didn't want to be warm and fuzzy yet, because I wanted to see how it, so, okay, let's raise your hands if you're in favor. 3, 5. Nope. You got 5 and 2. It has been passed.
We'll bring it to council next week and make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay. We'll move now to administration. We'll start with 4A, the appointment of an auditor for 2025 fiscal year, and will be the town treasurer, John Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're rapidly heading to the end of 2025, and as per the local governance act, we need to appoint an auditor for 2025. And just for council's awareness, today on a group emails, Council St. Andrews said we're 6 weeks from Christmas Eve today. So yeah, due to concern over increasing fees a couple of years ago, we went out and got some quotes and we changed auditors. We went with T. Saunders Dole. And we've had them for 2 years, and finance staff is pleased with their service, and they're maintaining their rates and hourly rates. So what we're looking for is a resolution from council to appoint.
That's Norman Fuzzy. See a lot of nods. Okay. That's a good one. All right, we'll move down to 4B, wastewater treatment plant design, construction and administration. And Peter Wong, Director of Corporate Services, is gonna handle these.
Sure, Council. If I may, I will do the next 4 all together. Because they sort of come from the background, obviously in Australia. You guys probably read through them and, you've probably done this before. We've been tasked or working with DMD and the Catholic Assistance Program. To refresh this infrastructure that aligns with the federal mandate that's come up in the past 8 months or so. So what we've done is we've proposed these projects, the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and the PMQ infrastructure. So we propose these projects that we need to do within the town as a priority. That aligns with the TND and the federal government mandates. What's happening so far is that we've asked for design costs. So I'm here tonight to ask the council's approval to accept these design proposals from the various consultants. And also allow CAO and the TAP enter into agreements with the capital assistance program in order to obtain the funding for this consultant piece.
Warm and fuzzy or none? Okay, perfect. We'll go to 4C, the infrastructure replacement design residential housing units in neighborhood 1. Peter, do you have that too?
Yep, that's all.
Oh, that's all 4 of them? Yeah.
Yeah,
So we agreed on all 4 of them? Perfect.
yeah. I mean, the good part about this, your worship, is that the connection that we're getting through the increased NATO spending, we're able to convince through discussion that, there's a direct link here in support of military and military spending. And so the federal government's prepared to pick up 100% of the tab on this. And so I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, so to speak. But this is really good news and good timing for the town.
I know. Okay. Yes, we're going to an adjournment. Okay, so this is. Okay, so now I'll call for a mover for an adjournment. Councillor Kirkbride, seconder, Councillor Whalen, questions, all in favor? Contrary, motion carried.